purpose of this episode is basically I have like for my first season of podcast, the first half we talk about relationships and the second half we talk about purpose. And so I wrote this blog post about Love Jones and Jesus because when I used to talk to my married friends about marriage, they made marriage seem like it was a tragedy. And like it was just the worst thing ever in life. And I was like, I don't want that to be my story. Like I don't want to get married and it'd be rough. I mean, I know you got some trying times. So I wanted to highlight some marriages that I thought were pretty dope. And I feel like that y'all actually have fun in y'all marriage. And that y'all actually like each other. So I felt like that was important. But okay. So welcome guys to another episode of For the Life of Me podcast. Today we are kicking off our Love Jones and Jesus series with two of my favorites. So we have Nathalie and Raph. And so how I know them, I know Nathalie because we work together. And she immediately was one of my favorite people because she ain't play no games. Like she was out here getting stuff done. And she was like, no, you're not gonna do this. This is what we're doing because this is how we're gonna do it. And so I was like, I like her. That's what I'm talking about. So she easily became one of my favorite people, but she's also one of the sweetest people that you will ever meet. Even though you may not see that on the surface, like you might be a little scared when you first meet her. However, she's one of the sweetest, most generous people I've ever met in my entire life. And so her and Ralph are just this amazing couple. And they have this amazing son who I just absolutely know you're going to see somewhere because he loves to entertain. And he has such a big personality at this young age. And I can't wait to see what he do. But I'm going to let them introduce themselves and talk about themselves. So take it away, y'all.
All right. I can go first. I'm Nat. Well, people call me Nat. My full name is Nathalie Villacrucis. I am half Taiwanese, half Bolivian, so you could say half Asian, half Spanish. And so I grew up in a really culturally diverse family. I'm originally from Maryland, but I live in Virginia now. But my heart is still with Maryland. And yeah.
Okay, my name is Raphael Villacrucis. People call me Raph, and I'm Filipino. I thought she was Filipino when I first saw her many years ago. I was like, that Filipino girl can dance, and then found out she's not Filipino, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll uncover that as the interview goes. But yeah, I'm from Virginia. Actually, I was born in DC, but then grew up in Virginia. VA.
Yes, y'all represent the entire DMV.
I know.
There you go.
I know. We met in what, 2013? And we got married in 2017.
So let's talk about that. How did y'all meet?
Let's rewind. Let's rewind way back. 2007. Okay, let's take it back to 2007. She used to be on this dance company called Culture Shock DC. And I would go to
love Culture Shock. I just knew I was going to join Culture Shock when I was younger. I was like, yes. I ain't had those type of skills, but that's amazing.
So I never thought, we'll fast forward later, but right now, we're in 2007. I'm sitting at the Warner Theater, just watching the show and just admiring all the dancers and everything happening. And this girl comes out with just this ferocity, just energy. I was like, that girl can dance. That Filipino girl is good. Like right in the middle, always center, every single piece. Found out her name was Nat Blanco. I was like, I don't know what Filipinos are named Nat Blanco, but that girl is Filipino and she can dance. That's all I knew. I admired her for a decade, and then finally, 10 years later, we get married. But that's fast forward. Okay, so I finally joined the team in 2012, 2013, and then she's of course on the panel for the auditions. So my heart's already in my neck, I'm nervous. At craziness, and it's yep. Yeah, so I mean that's when we met unofficially, and Yeah, she was like the teacher for master classes and everything. And there was one time I remember she was teaching a master class, and then she pulls out 3 people at a time to do the choreography she just taught. And of course, I'm awful at it. And she goes up to me and she's like, you're really bad. You're really bad. But I love you. I was like, she said she loved me. You hear that, guys? In my mind, I'm like, anyone else hear this? Right? And she says, I love you because you try. You get that one part right. Now you're missing everything else, but you get that one part right and you're trying. That one part is really great. And I was like, I don't care what you just said now because you just said you love me and I don't even know you. But yeah, so I mean that's where it went.
Yeah, we definitely met through dance, and then I used to direct the youth group, which was a huge part of my life at the time. And I had this large group of rambunctious boys that I just did not know how to handle. And my assistant director at the time was moving to California to pursue his own dream, and I needed someone else. So he brought me Raph and said, hey, I think Raph would be great. He teaches elementary school. If he can handle little boys, he can handle these teenage boys. He can really help you. And I was like, I mean, sure. I don't have any other choice, I guess. And then we just started working together, and we worked together on the youth group for quite a bit of time. And it required a lot of, anytime you work with a nonprofit youth group in DC or anywhere, it requires a lot of dedication, a lot of passion, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. You sacrifice a large part of your life to give back to the youth. And it's all year round. So to find Raph, to find someone who had that same passion as me and who would sacrifice just as much, was really awesome. And he's, we work together every day. So he really saw every aspect, everything I was trying to do for the company, everything I tried to do for the youth group, everything I was struggling with outside of dance, in dance, everything. So we really got to know each other a lot. I mean, we butted heads a lot. I'm not easy to work with at all, especially when I'm passionate about something and I want to see something really, really come into fruition in my vision. So to even find a co-worker, I guess you could say, or a partner that would allow me to have that space to do what I want, but to support me as best as they can is hard enough. So the fact that we could have that relationship, he definitely was like the yin to my yang. I would yell at the kids and I would make some of them cry. And he would wait 2 minutes and then take them out in the parking lot and be like, go ahead and cry and let it out and then go back inside. Like, you know what I mean? So he was always there.
Yeah, balance each other.
And I mean, disclaimer. At that time, we were both dating different people.
Yes.
Like,
And we were in really long-term relationships at the time. Both in unhealthy relationships, for sure.
Yeah.
They weren't healthy. We saw each other in those unhealthy relationships. And it was so funny because we talk about it now, but in our minds, we were like, always supportive of like, oh yeah, it's okay. You guys fight. It's okay. You'll get up. But in the back of our minds, we were like, God, this is awful. They should probably split up. Like we were always, thinking that, but we never said it to each other.
Yeah, I dated that girl for 8 years. You dated that?
For 7 maybe.
Is it because y'all were coworkers and you felt like that was like crossing the boundary?
It was weird. You could tell that there were definitely some underlying tensions between us, like chemistry, but we just thought it was, I thought it was artistic, like just artistic connection. I never thought, I mean, here and there I'd be like, yeah, Raph's good looking, but like because you have to think in our individual relationships, we're very serious. We were either engaged or about to get engaged, to our significant other at the time. We had been with them for a very long time. So it was interesting for sure. Like it wasn't until our individual relationships completely just kind of dissolved did we start to really like connect and start dating.
But it was kind of haphazard because I didn't know any of this was happening, right? I was kind of on a rebound fling, whatever, for a couple months, and then Nat's over here. We go to dinner for a planning meeting, right? We go to dinner, not even a date, right? We always did planning meetings, and like we'd have dinner every once in a while and do planning meetings. She goes, "Yeah, I'd date you." I was like, I almost threw my plate, threw my drink. I was like, are you serious? I'm gonna stop everything right now. Let's do this. You know, so something happened really quickly that night, and it was just like, all right, let's go. And then everything just kind of changed perspective, and it was great. It was, I don't know, the best that know you know kind of thing. If you know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was definitely weary. I was more weary than Raph. Raph was like, let's go. Yeah, sure. Let's start dating tomorrow, right now.
let's tell everyone. Let's break
I
it
know,
in.
but I kind of was like, oh, we're such good friends. And I really don't want to ruin this. And I just had a very awful relationship. So it was like, do I lose the one friend that really helped me through it? Do I even try? Like, what's going on? It was definitely, for me, it was a harder decision to jump full in. But I mean, obviously it worked out. But we started dating in January of 2016.
Officially.
Yeah,
So
2016.
what clicked for you though, Nathalie? Like with all your leeriness, what was that one moment, or if you can remember, like that one moment where you was like, I think this is gonna work. I think I want to give this a try.
I called my sister and I was like, hey, Raph really wants to like date. And she was like, and I was like, well, I mean, she's like, what's your hesitation? I was like, he's just so nice. Like he's really, really nice. Super, 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 super nice. And she was like, and I was like, and I'm kind of a bitch. Like I'm kind of an asshole. I don't know. I think he might be too nice. What if I push him over? What if it's not, I don't know. Like, I don't know how we work. I know how we work in a working relationship, but I don't know how we work in a regular relationship. And she was like, what do you have to lose? And then my sister was like, you have dated awful person after awful person. Like, what is there to lose? And I was like, yeah, I guess. And she was like, and you guys have been friends for a while. So just try it. Like, who cares? Just try it. So I was like, okay. So it actually was my sister who convinced me to just like jump in, and why not? Which is so funny because she ends up saying that in her speech at her wedding. Yeah. And everybody laughs because everybody knows I was like the rougher, meaner one, and Raph was super, super sweet. So, I mean, and then I was just like, okay, let me give it a go. And it just seemed so seamless. I didn't have to explain a whole lot. Raph knew a lot about me already. Yeah, but I think also we saw each other struggle really hard in our other relationships, like really hard. And we also saw that we learned a lot. Like, again, it takes two to tango. Like, I'm not gonna blame the total demolishing of my last relationship on my ex. I mean, it takes two people, I let this awful cycle keep going and going. I allowed it to happen because I wanted to be with someone so badly and I wanted to get married and things like that. But I let my blindness for like the perfect life get in my way of seeing what was really in reality. And for Raph, it was more like, I think in your relationship, you were like, I want to hit these milestones.
Yeah, and it just wasn't getting there because, she wasn't even along for the ride. You know what I mean? Like
y'all were on two different pages.
It's like we're not even going the same path, let alone riding in the same car. So it didn't make sense to me. I continually said I wanted to get married in a church, right? Always said I want to get married in a church. Religion. I'm Catholic, so it's like growing up Catholic was really big in my life. And then like for that, the girl I was dating at the time was Buddhist, so for her it wasn't necessarily
priority.
Yeah, it wasn't priority for her to get married in a church, let alone let it be sacred like that, So I wanted to have children. She didn't want to have children. So it was like, this is not. So
same. I wanted to have kids. My ex wanted to adopt. I mean, we just weren't on the same page, and I was definitely like forcing it because I was like, well, I put in so much work for so many years. and to give it up. And, it was hard for me. I think we were both blind in the potential of what we thought could happen, but deep down inside, we knew it wasn't really going to happen.
Right. I think it was a matter of us just having invested so much of time, money, life
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Sure.
all right, let's just
Yeah.
ride it out, see what happens. Maybe it'll turn better. But
And it's scary
Yeah.
to jump off something that you're so familiar with for so long. But it's honestly, it doesn't become a relationship, it becomes coping. You
Yeah.
just like force
Isn't
yourself.
that crazy how you would rather be in like something that's comfortable that you know that is toxic rather than to move away from that to experience something great, like just out of the fear of you don't know what it could possibly be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I don't normally gamble. I hate gambling. I hate taking chances like that. If I don't have control over it, I don't do it, right? So then the fact we got to give him some bread. The fact that we kind of took this chance and kind of went with it, that was a huge gamble in life, and it all played out in the end. So,
Yeah, it's
But
hard though.
I feel like love is risky anyway. When I think about like when I look at love stories and when I talk to people about how they met and things of that nature, it's always a risk. It's always a risk getting into something because you really don't know what will happen. What was one lesson that you took from your previous relationships that you knew you weren't going to repeat in your relationship now?
Trust your gut. If your gut is telling you something is amiss or something is wrong, trust it. I mean, my ex repeatedly cheated on me. And deep down inside, I feel like I knew that, but I just was like, I don't have the proof, so I can't really say anything. You don't need proof. Your feeling of suspicion is more than proof. It just is sometimes.
Yeah.
And if it's really deep down bothering you, just go with it and be done. Because when you are like, oh, I don't have proof, I don't have this, that's kind of a tool they use for manipulation.
Yeah.
Kind of pull you along.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous. So I think, and again, I kind of went with my gut. I mean, I was definitely reserved, but I went with my gut when it came to Raph, like this could really work. But it was so funny but also the second thing I would say is whatever lessons, really take the time to figure out what went wrong in whatever relationship you have, whether it's a personal relationship or just a coworker relationship, anything. You have to take the time to reflect and say, what went wrong? What did I do? What did they do? What did we do? What did we not do? Because I think I learned a lot about myself in that relationship. And I always tell Raph, two people who are at their best individually are better when they're together.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
good, right?
It's hard. It's like you want to be together. There is no right time, but there is a better you.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
you want to go into a relationship the best that you yourself are at to help that grow. Yes. I know.
That's RJ, by the way, if y'all want to know.
He's mad it's not a croissant. He got banana bread.
Let's be very real. He's mad he's not in the video.
Okay. For me, it's about like my love language is touch. So like for me to know that, just the first time I held her hand, it was that was it for me. Our fingers fit. I love her hands. I love her feet. Like it's just like weird things that like maybe weird to others, but for me, just the touch, it explains a lot. Like I don't have to say many words. I can just hold her, and when we first started dating, just that handhold, it was so powerful for me to see that. My ex before she thought my knuckles were too big, didn't want to hold my hand. So I was like, already there, that should have been a warning sign, but that carried on for years, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think you just can't. What we learned is it shouldn't be that hard.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what it was. I think in our past relationships, we were always fighting to stay together. And people are like, when you fight together and you get through the hard times, it makes you stronger. And granted, it can, but it also, you shouldn't be fighting all the time to stay together.
And I think it's a different type of fight. I think that when you're in a toxic relationship, like when I was in a bad relationship, I was fighting to show that I was valid. that I was necessary and that it was purposeful and it was intentional, and we can make this work if you do the things. But one of the things that you said that was so important is that you need to be the best version of yourself, or you should want to be the best version of yourself before you enter into somebody else's life.
Yeah.
You don't want to come into that relationship dumping all of your trauma and tragedy on a particular person. You want to be the best version of yourself so you can attract somebody who is the best version of themselves, and then y'all can build something great together. It doesn't mean that you don't evolve or that you don't change, but the foundation ends up being more solid when you understand who you are. And I think the most interesting thing about your relationship, and I don't know if y'all even realize it, is that really how y'all came together and like y'all connection was, it was purpose. You were passionate about something, he was passionate about something, and it brought y'all together. And I think that's really amazing. I think it's really dope.
Because a lot of relationships, and it could be anything, a dancer, a singer, an artist, and especially for artists, I feel like when you have a passion for something and that significant other has no idea what it's like, or they're not even trying to understand it, it's very hard. Like I've been through a lot of relationships, and so has Raph, that we were so into our dancing and the art form of it, and our significant others were not dancers. They just didn't get it. And to constantly try to convince them that you needed that in your life to help validate who you are, or to help you, or just so you could live out that passion, was really hard. When they don't get you. So it's like when you're with somebody, make sure they understand all aspects of you, good and bad, and your commitments to other things. Because me and Raph were super, super committed to dance and to our nonprofit. But then once we got together, once we got together, we realized we wanted to put that same energy into each other and our own family. So we took actually a huge step back from dance, and we weren't sad about it.
Yeah, I think the thing was our rehearsals were always on Sundays, right? And then once we took a step back, we realized, oh, we got some time to do other things, aka let's go back to church. And we're both Catholic, so for us to do that and reconnect and just have that time together, it was amazing. I sing a little loud. Yeah, we say our prayers.
A little loud.
Okay. Anyway.
Don't sit. Don't.
Yeah, I have my own harmonies.
Okay. At Christmas.
It's okay, Raph. It's okay.
I knew Ashley would understand.
It's a joyful praise.
Right. Exactly.
But let me tell you, I'm like, I read the book, I read the notes, and I sing it. Raph's like, I'm gonna sing.
I'm gonna ad lib.
I'm gonna ad lib here.
Add my descant over this. So it's like. Because I was a choir boy. I played in the orchestra. I played everything in church too.
That's okay, Raph. I respect it. Do what you feel.
Thank you. See, that's my praise. See, that's my praise. So, but I felt like that was great too, because we used to dance on Sundays, and it was cool. We get to drive to rehearsal. Cool. Spend 18 hours there, whatever. But then now we get that time to spend a couple hours at church. Go grab some coffee, chill afterwards, and just enjoy the Sunday, behold the day. So.
I mean, we were living a very rush life, and giving a lot of what we could to everyone else except for ourselves, and we were really far from our families. We were so busy in doing our own dance that we sacrificed a lot of our own family's time. So I never really saw my parents as often.
Yeah, since we were always on the road and such, we never got to see our families. And then this gave us the opportunity to open up our weekends a little, and to see our families and such.
But it was funny because when I started dating Raph, we got engaged very quickly.
5 months.
5 months into dating.
Yeah.
And my sister was super supportive of it because she loved Raph. But she was convincing my parents that this was a good idea would be really hard. So how she ended up doing it was calling my dad, and my dad was like, this is ridiculous. This is so fast. This is 5 months. And my sister was like, yeah, but they've known each other for a long time. They've only been dating for 5 months, but they've known each other for 5 years, a couple years.
Yeah.
So, and he was like, still, that's crazy to me. And she said one thing to my father. She said, she's dated a lot of people, but not one of them have brought her back to church. Not one. she was like, Raph has actually brought her back to church. She's going to mass. She shows up at, you know, at Christmas, and she shows up to family events now, and
Yeah.
she's present. She was like, if anything, Raph is bringing her back to God and to us. So how is that bad in any way? And my sister was like, and so she was like, you know, if you want to see more of her, Raph is our key. And I don't think there's anything bad about that, because I really hadn't been to church in a while because I was just so busy. I never made the time. And because I wasn't going to church, I wasn't seeing my family, you know? So, because that was the one thing that we all got together, and we always did every Sunday. And no matter how far apart we were and what state we lived in Virginia or Maryland or DC, like we always got together on Sundays and went to church together. But I hadn't done that in years because I was so busy running around. But when Raph came around, he was like, we need to set aside that time. So to my dad, it was just like, okay, he brought her back to church, and he's going to bring her back to us. So I don't think that I'll go along with this. And it was so funny because when Raph introduced me to his aunt, which is which is considered the elder in the family.
The eldest in the family.
You give the eldest the most respect as possible. When I met her, she was like, 5 months, who is this girl? I don't want to know this girl. This is ridiculous. You guys are crazy. The first thing Raph said to her was, she loves me. She shows me her love, and she is a good Catholic girl. And she was like, sold. Because I think our families for such a long time didn't see us at church, and it really did hurt them, and we never really realized that. So when, you know, we found someone that would bring us back to the family and back to church, I think both of our families were super, super relieved. Because I know my mom was saying more prayers every night because I wasn't in church, and she's lost her way. She doesn't know what she's doing. So I think they were relieved to like see that we found someone that would not only respect each other's religion, but really like dive into it.
So Raph, in 5 months, I mean, I know that you had admired Nathalie for a long time, but in 5 months, what was it that you was like, I'm ready, I'm about to pop this question?
I mean, like we were saying, there was purpose. I felt like we knew what we wanted to do with our lives. We had a similar like 5-year plan. You know, it's like we wanted to get married, start a family, buy a home. Like it's just those things were all things that were on our checklist. We had the same vision, everything like that. And then, you know, just being able to sit at church and understand like what the point of relationship is and everything was really great too. And then as we did our like marriage classes, because like the Catholic Church has marriage class, like marriage, what do you call it?
The counseling?
Yeah, it's like marriage, not counseling.
Not counseling.
But they want it.
Training.
Yeah, they
I don't
just.
know what to call it.
We go through these classes where they make sure that your faith is strong.
Yeah.
And then they.
After this video. Okay.
And then we gotta edit you out, dude, because you're all over the place.
All over. So like at those trainings, not the trainings, at those classes. I don't know what to call it actually, but at those,
they talk about like what are some things that you guys have in common? What are your goals in your life as a family? Things like that. I mean, some of it is great. Some of it's just kind of like, you're just asking to ask me these things. But we learned a lot. I think most importantly, like you don't have to have a 5-year plan. You don't want to, you know what I mean? Say hi. You don't have to. I mean, that was just for us. I think what's more common is that you both have the same goals, right?
Yeah.
And they don't have to be super specific. We were very specific because after being in such awful relationships, I was like, no, I need to get this right. I will not do what we just like. I cannot do that again. I won't survive it. But it was kind of like, you know, and we were older. So, you know, when you get together when you're 20, you're just like, I just want to be happy and I want to do this. But when you're dating, I feel like in your 30s, for us, we were like, you got a lot of debt, dude, because I ain't there in debt. Like, I think it's like a little, there are more serious conversations because you are in your early 30s and you're just kind of like, you're in a different mindset in life.
But in general, it should be that way. If you want to get married, you should be having serious conversations. Like you shouldn't get married and be trying to figure out, oh, do you want kids? Because I want kids. Like those are conversations that need to be had before you even ask the question.
Yeah.
Right.
Or kids, finances, where you want to live,
And that's
how your families will mesh together. And if they don't mesh together, that's fine. But can you manage that? Is that manageable? Because if it's not, let me tell you, when your families do not get along or you can't find a way to coordinate that, that's very hard on you as a couple, and it will test you over and over. I mean, our families are great. We don't always get along. But then in those instances where you don't get along, you guys have to understand that you have to be a unified, you know, like Raph doesn't always agree with my parents, but he never will disrespect them. I rarely agree with Raph's parents. But I mean, we are on we have an understanding of like how we feel, what we will do, what we won't do, and things like that. And those are important conversations. And like, we have a lot of friends who are from different religions, and that's fine. But you have to understand how you're going to make that work when you have a kid. I think we have a lot of friends who are from different religions, and then when come, Christmas, they don't agree, and then they have a kid, and they've never discussed it before, and then Christmas rolls around, and they're like, well, I want them to celebrate Christmas, and everyone's like, well, we don't. That actually, we see that a lot, and that actually causes a lot of issues. So it's things like that. Like, you just want to, you can't prepare for everything, but you want to have those hard discussions early to save you a lot of heartache later. And we've had a lot of friends that are from two different religions, and then they've been engaged, and then when it got down to it, they realized, we can't make this work because you're not willing to compromise, and neither am I. And that's hard. And that's tough.
Very. But I think it boils down to, again, an identity thing. Like, when you understand who you are, you also have to understand like your values and what's negotiable and what's a non-negotiable.
Right,
because then those are conversations that you can have while you're dating. And I think we be asking the wrong questions when we go on date. Like, we be doing stupid stuff. Like, what's your favorite color? Where do you like to hang out at? No. What are you doing in 5 years? What is your life plan? Do you believe in God? Like, how do you handle conflict? Those are the hard conversations, but people sometimes feel like those are too serious questions to ask on a date. And it's like, nah, if you dating with purpose, I need to know. I'm not gonna waste your time. You ain't gotta waste my time. And if we're on the same page, I feel like we should be able to have those logical conversations. Anyway, they're necessary.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, me and Raph we had a lot. I mean, again, we were pretty traumatized from our last relationships. So going in, I was like, I'm not doing this. I need to know this about you. You know, I felt like my ex had a lot of secrets that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And I think deep down inside, I didn't want to know about because I just wanted to continue going, which was such a bad idea. So,
but I think that the best thing that you and Raph both did is that y'all assessed what went wrong in y'all last relationship. And you also took accountability for your part as well. It wasn't just like, this is everybody else's fault and I don't take any ownership of that. Because when you take ownership of what role you played in that, then you understood what not to bring to the table in your next relationship, what you needed to work on, where you needed to heal, and all of those other things. So you don't place that same energy into a new situation.
Right.
So I think that's amazing.
When you think of like failure, I see failure as like opportunity to grow. And like an opportunity to learn from. So, I mean, not that my relationship was a failure, but it didn't work out, obviously, you know? So it's like we learned from that. And I feel like that's where it was. But also, I could see through the facade of what she, you know, when she is this mean, screaming person, you know, in rehearsal, she's a different person. If you think she's like strict and terse right now, like in rehearsal, it's like her voice comes out. She's hoarse, everything. She's just yelling consistently, like no smiles ever.
I'm a pusher.
That's okay. Sometimes
I'm a pusher, and I have standards for sure when it comes to my art form. But I think Raph took the time to get to know me outside of that, and he was like, "Oh, you're completely not that.
Like I knew she was super sweet, and I knew she was super fluffy, and everyone's like,
Absolutely.
You're gonna date her?" I was like, they were like, "Good luck." I was like, "No, man, we're the same. We're
No,
exactly
because even at work on the surface, if you don't know her that well, you'll be like, "Hey, girl, hi."
I think also that's a big part of it too. A lot of people had a lot to say about us being together. Not negative. They're pretty much positive, like people close to us, but a lot of people wanted to know, like, how did that happen? How did da. And it took a while for us to be like, really none of your business. Because we came from the same dance community. I think a lot of people were like, how did that happen? How did this? How did you guys get together so fast? And what was going on? And there was a lot of like, oh, were you guys together before that? And a lot, and it was just a lot of that. And I was like, there's a lot of interest in us for no reason. And then that's what you have to do. You have to also identify things that aren't healthy for you being together.
Yeah.
And so we had to kind of take a step back from that. And also like social media too, I think we see a lot of our friends get in a lot of fights over something they saw on social media, or they posted something, or someone has something to say. Those avenues are avenues to me of like toxicity. Like I don't have social media, and I know a lot of people can't live without their social media, and that's fine. I get it.
She does
You
use
better.
mine.
I do look at Raph social, like he'll go on Instagram and I just want to see what our friends are doing.
I mean, I just assumed that it was a joint account. It just it say Nat and Raph, so I'm like, oh, this is their joint account.
But I don't
Literally
like.
share.
I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram. I don't have Twitter. I close a lot of those things when I closed my last relationship, because I think a lot of people wanted to know what was happening with me, and I was like, I need the time to not give you the update. I need the time to actually work on myself.
That's good. That's actually great advice. I hope somebody heard that, because I know somebody right now want to post something. Close your social media.
Yeah, I think when you're working on yourself, the need to constantly update everyone on your progress is unnecessary.
It's unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean, when you feel like you're ready, and people will see it. You don't need to tell them.
Yeah. It's unhealthy. I think social media adds a whole new element to relationships it's the whole new obstacle that can be that is unnecessary. There are some positives to social media, obviously, but there are also a lot of negatives if you get consumed by it. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of jealousy that can come from it. It's a lot of suspicion. There's a lot of, or you don't post about me enough, or like it adds another element to the relationship that's really strange. Y'all
lucky, because that's even a conversation in dating. Are you gonna post? Do we post each other? What are we doing? Like, how's this gonna go? Well, it's so much. It's so much to add to something that could already be a challenge. Like the dating scene, first of all. God bless y'all. Amen. Okay.
Yeah,
we kind of went through it old school too. I mean, we didn't need social media to get together, So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard. I mean, but we have tons of friends, couples who've met on social media networks, and they're very much in love, and they're engaged, or they're married, and things like that. And so I do think there is a plus side to it, but I think you also need to really be honest about who you are on those sites. And then also kind of realize what type of when you meet the person, like, are they real? Are they not? What are you looking for? Are you both looking for the same thing? Are you not looking for the same thing? But a lot of times people filter those things and they're like, they don't have this, they don't meet this, they don't make this checkpoint, they don't meet, you know what I mean? Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be so hard on the other person either.
Yeah.
I mean, I know tons of friends who have downloaded those sites and they check it every day and they haven't gone on one date. It's kind of like, then what's the purpose of you doing that?
I don't know. I tried a dating app and I was on it for a little while, and it was just first of all, the algorithm was dumb. I was like,
yes.
Are you listening to what I'm telling you?
Raph laughed at me because after I broke up with in my previous relationship, I went on eHarmony and I went on all these things, and Raph was laughing at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, I literally can't meet anybody. This is so hard for me. But he's like, "Is it working?" I'm like, "No, for some reason it keeps sending me only Middle Eastern men."
It just be so random. You be
It
like,
was so random. Yeah.
Well, another thing I learned
but yeah, I don't necessarily feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like dating apps are for me. I like the old school feel, so I'd rather go out and authentically connect with somebody. But I do understand that because of the times that we are in, that has become more challenging or harder, because where are you really going right now? Like,
Right.
how many places are you really going to authentically connect? And then you add the mask into the equation, so you don't really know what they look like either. So there's that.
It's hard. I mean, I can definitely see it. We definitely have friends who are going through, and it's definitely hard. I just think dating in general is hard, and you have to understand that when you're getting into it.
Yeah. But I think, or at least most of the people that I have a conversation with that are single, we're kind of in this place, or I can only I'll speak for myself. Like, I'm in this place to where I'm okay with being patient. I'm okay with waiting on God to allow the perfect setting for me to meet the right person, because I only want to get married one time. I don't want to get into a relationship or marriage and realize that that's not where I'm supposed to be or the person I'm supposed to be with. So it was important for me to take a journey to understand who I am, what it is that I want, what my plans are, what my goals are, and to work on myself so that when I do meet him, that I'm ready for what it is that I have been praying for.
Yeah.
I know y'all talked about returning to church and things like that. So not how, but let's talk about the importance of God in your relationship and how it has helped y'all.
I think when we hit rough patches, it being able to pray together.
Yeah.
When you pray by yourself, it can be it's an amazing experience. But for some reason, when we would pray together, and we don't even have to be speaking, but we're just there praying together, it fills me with a certain emotion that I don't have when I'm praying by myself.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that spiritual support that I know Raph is giving me in his own prayer. It was crazy. I mean, we went to church and we would go, but when I went with Raph, it felt very different. But also when hard times really hit us, we pray about it, we feel, I don't know. I feel like I could be more vulnerable, right?
Yes.
I could be more open. So for example, my sister had twins. She had them early, very early. They were in the NICU for 12 weeks, a really long time. We were very worried, and they were very tiny, and we weren't ready for that. And we prayed all the time. And then we went to church, and Raph was like, "We will pray for them. And whatever you feel, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to do, like, I'm right next to you. Just do whatever." And I just started praying, and I lost it. I just lost it. Like, I just started crying, crying and crying. I couldn't stop myself. I couldn't contain it. It just was pouring out of me. And I don't think I would ever be able to do that had I not had Raph's support and feel like he's also praying with me. I really don't, like, that's just not me. So I think when we're in hard places and we are able to pray and to look to God together, I feel like, I don't know, it's like 2 prayers are better than 1. You know, I felt like we were going to be okay, but I could, in that moment at church, just literally release every bit of fear, grief, sadness, joy. Like, it was just like the weirdest emotional roller coaster for me. And I've never done that before.
Now, on the flip side, things that, thank you. when things are really really happy or really joyful, like for instance our wedding, right? I've never felt that kind of love before. at our wedding. I was a mess. I was crying so many times, but it was like it was tears of joy, right? Because I literally have never felt that kind of love before. Like, yeah, I knew I loved her, right? But then like as we, are going through the whole ceremony and going through just like the reception and everything with everyone, the love that everyone was giving us and the love that God was, speaking through the people around us, I just was overwhelmed with that. Like yeah, the wedding was expensive, but at the same time, like that feeling of love and connection with everybody was
Yeah.
and that to me was where I knew that, God was present in this whole relationship and that, he would kind of oversee us as our life continued.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's really hard for me to describe because I feel so different going to church by myself and then going with Raph. I feel completely two different ways, and maybe it's because I feel more connected to God when I'm there sharing the moment with Raph, for sure. I mean, every time we went to church and celebrated something or mass or for Christmas, like every Christmas I've ever had with Raph afterwards, I don't know what it is about being there with him. I just want to cry. It's just
singing.
Like it just fills me with so much joy that I'm just like ridiculously overcome. And it's so funny because like in the moment I'm like, this is so silly. Why am I crying? But I can't stop.
I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful because I think what Ralph may add to you is that it gives you a sense of comfort and allows you to be even more vulnerable with God. And then in Matthew, it says where two or more are gathered, like God is in the midst of them. And so I just think it's beautiful that y'all's relationship and your marriage brought y'all closer to God. Because there are times where people come together and it brings them further away.
Yes. Yeah. I think life tests your faith constantly.
Yeah.
But when I'm with Raph, for some reason, I feel that my faith is not tested, but it's asserted. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Sure.
I don't know. It's just, I know it's not there. I know it's always there. So, and I don't know if that's because Raph has so much faith in me, and then that allows us to have more faith together in God, in life, in everything. I don't know what it's so hard for me to describe because it's just a really awesome feeling. I think with COVID, it's been hard because we haven't been able to really go to church to the extent that we want to. And watching mass in the house, like watching Easter mass with RJ and things like that. I mean, he loves it. He now can eat snacks in mass, and he can
very different experience for him.
Yeah, like he can do his karate kicks, while he's in mass.
Jump off the couch. Yes,
he's like in love with that. So it has been hard for sure, and I do think that missing that, like our community in church has been difficult in COVID for sure. I definitely can't wait till we can like go back to that. Yeah. So I think, but that in itself is also a test. It's like, how do you keep that alive in your household, right? You shouldn't have to go to church all the time to do that. You have to figure out ways to feel that consistently in your household, not just on Sundays. So I think that also was a test for us too. It's like, how do we keep that constantly alive in our own household more consistently, which would be a good thing, It's not
sure. Because you need God every day, not just on the days that you attend church. You need him every day. So you have to figure out how to have your own authentic connection outside of that.
I do miss. I miss the choir.
Yes.
Even Spanish mass. That tambourine going off. Like I miss all of that.
I miss it too. I do. I'm not gonna hold you. I probably have my RJ moments because I do love rolling over and just clicking on my phone, and I'm in my pajamas watching service. But I also miss like the connection, like singing in the choir, and just all of the little things that happen when you go to church. So two final questions. We're gonna wrap it up. The question just slipped my mind. Oh, okay. So I wanted to know, now that y'all have RJ, y'all seem just so connected. How do y'all keep y'all connection? Like, how do y'all make time for you all to connect with having RJ? Because RJ is a ball of energy, and I love it.
It's hard. It's really hard. It was just so funny. We were just talking to our best friends about this because they also have a 1-year-old. And it's like, how do you keep each other connected? You lose that connection a lot, because you lose patience a lot.
Yeah.
It's
Or
hard.
your attention's elsewhere as well. Like,
Yeah.
We're always constantly watching him, especially now that he's potty trained, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
watch or
Yeah.
else you're gonna end
And
up
we
with a
don't,
wet
and
rug.
don't get me wrong, we don't always agree on parenting.
Right.
On certain issues. Like, we try our best to, but we don't always. And when we don't, that pushes us away. Like, our difference in opinion in parenting is probably the biggest thing that will keep us away from each other, because we're just like so angry that the other doesn't agree or whatever, because you really care about your child. So when you really care about something and you disagree on it, it really can push you away. So it's really, you have to always find a way at the end of the day to really get back and talk. You have to talk about it though. You have to talk. You cannot not talk about it. I know I'm really awful at that because I like to have my space when I'm angry and I just don't want to, but I also know that we need to talk about it. But it's also really hard because me and Raph don't always talk the same language. What Raph hears in his mind is not what I hear in like what I hear. And but you have to say that, like, we'll say something and he'll be like, well, I thought you meant this. And I'll be like, on what planet that interprets
But at least y'all have figured out that part to understand it. Sometimes I say something and he hears it this way. And so once you communicate what it is that you thought you heard, y'all can kind of decipher that, because that's important.
You have to, because that happens, it can happen a lot, but you have to talk about it and you have to be sensible about it. At first I was not. I'd be like, what do you mean? That's not what I said. Well, I know, but I have to learn how to calm myself down and be like, okay, what about me saying this makes you think that? Do I not say that? Or can I just explain to you what I meant so that we can understand? Language, you would be, when you really talk to somebody and you really get to know them, you will be so surprised on what gets lost in translation.
Yeah.
At first I was like, you just forget. You forget everything. You have the worst memory ever. You just don't remember anything. But it wasn't that at all. It was literally he heard something else. He interpreted something completely different. And and I had to really take the time to learn. That also is it. Take the time to learn the language of your partner. It is not the same language as you.
For me, the biggest thing is forgiveness, right? So
yeah.
Make sure that you're willing to, suck up your pride and forgive the person, or, like, just, we'll disagree. We'll agree to disagree often, right? But we don't let it get to the point where it pushes us apart. Like, the differences are what brings us together, honestly, because what our purpose is to raise RJ, right? And, like, for him to have the best life possible and grow as much as he can, and that's our focus, right? So at the end of the day, we realize our purpose is the same.
Yeah.
As opposed to the way we get there, it doesn't matter, right? Yeah, we agree on what, I'll go left, you go right, whatever. One day we're gonna go
meet
right,
in the middle.
Meet in the middle,
yeah.
Right? So that's the thing. I feel like for us, we have a common purpose, whereas, like, the way we get there might be different. We have different outlooks, different perspectives. That's because we're different people. But that's what I feel like brings us together even closer.
Yeah, but you have to constantly remind each other what your common purpose is, I think, too. Mm-hmm. Our purpose is to be happy, to raise a kid, to have ambition, to be successful, or things like that. Like, just continuously remind each other every day what brings you together and what makes you happy and what your goal is as a couple. And you have to keep that connection all the time. But also, you really do need to make time for yourself. It's hard for us because when we do make time for ourselves, we miss our son, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you still have to find that time. And especially in COVID, it's hard because you are together all the time, but it's not quality together.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference. Just because you're around each other all the time does not mean that it's actually quality, and that don't write that off as, I see her every day, it's fine, we're together, right. We have a connection. That is completely different. You could be around somebody all day and not have any connection. So you have to really take a time and be like, how much connection time do we have? Not really how much time are we together.
Right.
Those are two completely different things. So you really need to like kind of assess those two differences, but also like do something new, do something fun. I know that seems cliche, but you kind of have to. I mean, it's hard in COVID, but sometimes you have to take that leap of faith. Like we just went to Disney because we know that's something we really want to do together, and it brings us joy. I think that's a key thing. Like, figure out what brings you guys joy together and continuously try to like keep that alive. But it is hard with a kid, for sure. You have to try harder.
It's about balance also. Like if you lose sight of the balance of things, like if you get too much into your work or if you get too much into your son or whatever, like whatever your attention is, make sure there's a balance. That way you're able to still remain focused on all aspects of your life as opposed to like, always veering one way. Because that way everything is kind of in harmony. I feel like that's the biggest part.
And don't give up. I mean, unless it's like really awful. But I always used to say this thing when I teach is if you want to be better, you have to do better, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to get better at this. Okay, then you have to do better, do more, do better. Continue. You're not going to get better in something by doing the same thing over and over again. So it's for us, it's like if we want to be better together, we need to figure out ways to do things better together. Like it's just, it's not hard to, like to kind of put that together. It's like, okay, well, I want us to talk better more. Okay, then we have to talk more. We have to do better at talking to each other, like figuring out the right language, figuring out. But also, Raph made a thing. We figured out what our love languages were in the beginning
of our
relationship. And I never thought that I thought it was just like some silly test. Like, why is Raph doing a silly little test? But it really does show our differences and how we can make them compatible. Like my love language is gifts and giving and service. Raph's is touch and quality time. Those are very different. But we understand that that's how we express. So it's like when I do this is how I'm expressing my love for you. I think that's really important. And I also think it's that, what do we do that like personality test too? I mean, even though he pretty much knew my personality, but like the color thing,
Color
right?
test.
Oh yeah, that I did that. I ended up doing that at my job, and it taught me so much about myself. But it also taught me a lot about my coworkers and other people and how they interpret what it is that you're doing or giving them.
Right.
And I learned so much from it. I read the love language book for myself as well, and I think it's interesting because you never think about the fact that the way that you give love, somebody may not receive it, and so they don't interpret it as that. And I think it's really, really amazing. So I was gonna ask y'all final thoughts. However, I feel like y'all have given me like really amazing final thoughts as far as like not giving up, understanding how to communicate with one another. Y'all dropped a lot of nuggets in this episode. And I really appreciate y'all. And I thank y'all for coming on to my podcast, my first season. This has been an interesting ride for me and an interesting experience.
Sorry, everyone who has to listen to my son talking, but
it's fine.
Childcare is so.
It is fine. It is fine. But thank y'all. And I'm going to close us out. Do y'all have any final thoughts? Any words?
Love yourself, and then people say it and it sounds so. It's like, oh, it's so cliche, but when you love yourself, it makes loving someone else so much
easier. Mm-hmm.
So much easier, and really know what you want in your life, and really make that vocal. Don't hide it if you're in a relationship. Just and sometimes that's super attractive. Like, Raph is a teacher, and I love that about him. But he has ambitions to be a barber. That's really his passion. That's really what he wants to do. And to see him really like train and try to do it, like that ambition, I think that's great. I really admire him for that. Those are the types of things that you want to really admire in your partner and things like that. But you have to vocalize them. So
for me, it's about kind of sticking to what you value, right? Sticking to your values. Because you can say I'm going to change him, I'm going to change her, whatever. no, that doesn't happen, right? Like you can't change a person. They are what they are, and for you to walk in thinking I'm gonna mold this person to what I want, no, so that's already selfish in itself. So you have to figure out how you can work with what you value, and then mesh it with what they value. And then once you have those non-negotiables, like you mentioned earlier, and they kind of find out the, where they mix, that's when it's gonna. I feel like that's where it's gonna flourish and have space to grow. And that's your roots that you grow from. So, but also know that relationships are organic. Like it's gonna grow in itself. Like our relationship is completely different from what it was 5 years ago, right? And just the way that it's 5 years already.
I know, and it should grow.
Yeah.
If your
Yeah,
relationship
absolutely.
is growing, then
Right.
that is a sign for something else. To be quite honest, in my opinion.
Yeah, like as a person, I've changed. Like I literally took the True Colors test 5 years ago, and I took it again yesterday, and my responses were completely different because of the way that I've grown over the years. So as long as you stay true to yourself, and you'll find the values for each other as well. So.
That's amazing. Let them know your one social media account that they can. They want to see your cute family pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to see our family pictures, it's at Raphology. It's called Raphology because it's the study of Raph. But it's really that's how it started 20 years ago. But now it's the study of our family. So at Raphology on Instagram.
Yes, I'll put that in the description below. Thank you all for joining us. And as I say in every episode, if one thing was said that you could take away that can help make you better, then we have done our job. Thank you for joining us.
Peace
out.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All
That
right,
was
we did it.
awesome.
Hey.
Nailed it. Stop recording.